Robert Plant to mention Troy was so weird to me. It's like, are you from Troy? And I was like, yeah. It's like, I had my birthday in Troy.
Hey, this is Party Like a Rockstar podcast, and I'm your host, Joel. Today's episode is brought to you by Misha's Kind Foods. They're an LA-based small business making the world's finest non-dairy cheese on the market today. They're lactose-free, paleo, keto, kosher, Parev, and 100% vegan. If you like what you see, check out the next video. If you like this video, please subscribe and like by clicking the little round button on the bottom right. To learn more about me or other guests on the show, go to joelrohde.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok. The handle is Joel Rohde. If you haven't already read my book, Memoir of a Roadie, it's now available through Amazon and paperback Kindle or as an audiobook. I hope you enjoy the show. Sean Rowe is a singer-songwriter. His newest album, The Darkness Dressed in Colored Lights, was just released in October. You may recognize his songs from NBC hit dramas The Blacklist and Parenthood. His song, To Leave Something Behind, was also featured in Ben Affleck's 2016 feature film, The Accountant. He's also an expert forager who hosts the web series, Can I Eat This? It's got a great theme song. Gareth Dunlop is a singer-songwriter. He's toured with Van Morrison, Jeff Beck, Snow Patrol, Nanci Griffith, who's one of my favorite ever. I'm such a huge fan. And the Stereophonics. You may have heard the songs on the show, Nashville, Lucifer, This Is You, Bones, or Suits. In addition, he also has songwriting credits that include T.I., Tim McGraw, Faith Hill, and John Oates. His new album is called Animal, and it'll be out April 22nd. So I have something to admit, Sean. So when I first read your publicist reached out to me first, actually, and they sent me something, and I saw it, and I'm like, wow, the guy's a forger. I'm like, I totally want to talk to this guy. And I write back immediately. And then I read, I'm like, forager. I'm like,
yeah, that's happened before. That's happened a few times before.
Well, I mean, truthfully, forager would be more interesting, I think.
Yeah.
And I watched a bit of your web series, and it was very good. I saw the bit. There was a dog running, and he jumped into your
yeah. Right. I tried to keep the sort of spontaneous moments intact. It was part of the show. It's kind of a loose feel to it, It
was fun. It was really good. It was good. So what stuff in Ireland can we eat safely? Is there lots of stuff that we could survive on? Or
you're talking to the wrong guy.
Yeah, me too. One thing would be, so when I was in Ireland, there's certain cities that you walk into the bar, the pub, or whatever, and the band's just gonna be great. and Dublin was one of those cities where I walked in, and I mean, you're like, wow, you guys are really, really good. How long were you? You're in the States now, I think, right, Gareth?
No. So for I don't know, probably the last 11 or 12 years, I was back and forth from mainly Nashville. I'd be a month there and a month home, and just taking that flight back and forth. And of course, the last couple of years, nobody's been able to travel anywhere, so I've been here at home in Belfast.
Oh, okay. Nice. Do you play in any of those pubs?
Yeah, well, that's kind of how I got my bread and butter. It was playing in pubs and clubs all around Ireland, really.
Yeah.
And every now and again, I'll go back and do some of those smaller clubs. It's good fun.
Oh, it's neat stuff. So one of the things I ask everybody, usually at the end, was like, what are some of the odder gigs you've played? What are the stranger performances? But John, I wanted to focus on, I thought it was really interesting. You did this entire tour where you played at people's houses. And I thought that
I'm still doing that.
So you must have some really neat stories about going into these places where you're like, didn't expect this. How many people could you fit in the kitchen?
Yeah. There was, it's pretty cool because, you don't know what to expect. The way that I set up these house shows was they're basically just fans of mine that reached out through social media and said, hey, I'd like you to come to my place and play. And so, a lot of the time I really don't know these people. They may have seen me play live at a club before, but I've never seen them myself before. So going into their house for the first time and setting up like I'm at a stage somewhere in a club, you know, it's really interesting, the kind of like, you know, the sort of visceral feeling you can have from being that close to an artist, you know, and that close to the music physically, you know. But I remember this one time I played, it was definitely on the East Coast somewhere, and it was a while back. It was years ago when I kind of first started doing this. And you know, a lot of people have pets, and you know, you going into their homes, and usually it's sometimes a problem with dogs because with the sounds, you know, and they can be kind of freaked out. But this one couple, they had this cat, and they warned me ahead of time. They're like, we just want to let you know that we have a cat, and he's got an extra hole in his body. And I was like, oh, really? And they're like, yeah, he's got an extra hole in his body, and we just didn't, you know, we wanted to tell you ahead of time in case you freaked out by this cat. But when he sneezes, one of his organs pops out a little bit. And then I was like, what? Really? And then I witnessed this cat sneezing, and like a piece of his kidney or something popped out. I don't know what it was, but it just comes out a little bit and then it goes back in, and he seems fine. You know, I haven't experienced that before, but it was nice of them to give me a warning just in case that would, you know, create a jarring moment during the performance. But
a little different. I got yeah, that one's a little.
And I played this place in Jersey, which was like it was kind of like it wasn't even suburban. I'd say it was like in the city. So it was an apartment, and all these houses were really close together. And I pulled up in front of this apartment I was going to play in, and I saw the couple like get home just out of their car. They were right in front of me, and they were screaming at each other. And I'd never met these people before, but they were screaming at each other. Like the windows were closed, but you could hear them like they were getting into something. And then, you know, the dude opens up the door, slams it. She gets out, and they're still screaming at each other. And she's like, "You're fucking done." You know, and he's like, "I fucking hate you," you know, and they're just like, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I got to play at this house, you know? And they walk up to the door, and I'm like, I can't do this, man. I can't go in there now. They're going to hate me, you know? And they just went to the next door, like the door right next to that, which wasn't their house. So it turned out to be like not the couple. I was like, oh, Jesus, thank you. You know, but yeah, you never know what you're going to walk into, you know?
Those are good ones. Have you had any, you know, in the origins of playing, Gareth, where you played in some places that were a little off kilter, I suppose?
Definitely, quite a few. There was one of the odder things that I did when I was starting out gigging around town was my sister was in an ABBA tribute show, and every now and again I'd tag along just to kind of carry the speakers and carry the gear. And then, you know, they pay me 50 quid. And usually a lot of the places we played, they drink.
We call those roadies, Gareth.
Yeah, roadie. It was, we were, I guess I was kind of paid in beer mostly. A lot of the places we played, they, everything was very, very cheap. And one week, one of the guys didn't turn up. So I had to put on the white sequin suit and the wig and the fake beard and get behind the fake keyboard. My sister Heather and Carrie, they both sang, but all the music was just all on mini disc. It was pretty terrible.
So you were like, so it was all like lip synced and everything?
Oh yeah, like the whole thing, and playing in some really grotty, horrible shithole bars. So and I did that for like a year and a half. Damn. Because the places we played were so fucking mental. Like some weeks you'd be playing in like a bingo hall. Other weeks you'd be maybe playing in like the officers' mess in like an army barracks. So it was really like, you know, really off the wall, and just wearing this white sequin suit and stand. I can still remember the keyboard. Clearly wasn't even plugged in. It was missing like half of the keys and shit, and standing behind it pretending to play. And the most infuriating part was the other guy who played guitar. He didn't even play guitar. So I mean, I had a little bit of knowledge. I could kind of make it look like I was playing something, but I actually play guitar. I remember saying to him, "Man, do you want to switch? You know, I could at least make that look, you know, halfway right."
Uh-huh.
And I didn't know that guitar was his pride and joy. He'd went out and bought it especially, although he didn't play a damn note on it. Like, no, that was his baby. No, you stick the keys. So yeah, they were interesting times.
So to jump back then, so your parents were into you guys playing instruments? If your sister was into music, you're into music, or did you guys figure it out yourself?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you know, I wouldn't say I grew up in the most like musical setting. I mean, my mum couldn't carry a tune, and you know, my dad would maybe pick a little bit of mandolin, but you know, we weren't really surrounded by music all the time. We'd maybe, you know, sing a few songs in the back seat of the car, but it wasn't something that was always around us. So they really had no real reason to be, you know, to be cool with me going forward with music. They had no real reason to support it, but thankfully they did. They were massively supportive, and you know, at every turn they're real excited and get behind it. And yeah, it's great. I'm very, very, very fortunate in that sense.
Oh, that's good. How about you, Sean?
Yeah, well, when I was a kid, I grew up on my mother's side of the family is very religious, Catholic. My mother was an ex-Catholic nun, and my uncle was a priest. So I grew up kind of steeped in that. And my uncle used to sing and write religious songs, and he had acoustic guitar, and he had a little music room. Both of my uncles on my mother's side played instruments. And so I'd always be, one of the things I'd love to do as a kid was fascinated by instruments, just like picking up an instrument and making it do something, you know, like I didn't want to take lessons. I didn't want somebody to show me how to play it. I just wanted to pick it up, and I wanted to like figure stuff out, you know? So whenever I saw an acoustic guitar leaning up in the music room, I'd have to figure it out, you know, I'd pick it up, and it was huge and it was bulky and really hurt my fingers. But, you know, one of the first things I learned and taught myself to play was a very bad, obviously horrible version of Ozzy Osbourne's Crazy Train on acoustic guitar. You know, I just do I was good at like picking stuff out by ear. I do that on a piano too. I couldn't play a song really, but I would just do shit and it sounded good to me. I'd find where the chords were just by saying, "Oh, this sounds like a chord." You know what I mean? So that's the way I learned. When I was a little older, my parents got divorced and my dad moved to Florida. He lived at a children's home. He was like a parent at one of these children's homes in Florida. And they had this music building that was all instruments. They had a grand piano in there, a couple drum sets, bass amps, guitar amps, host of guitars. And to me, that was like a candy store. I mean, I would go in there and spend hours, like 8 hours a day, sometimes just playing instruments. Taught myself how to play like drums a little bit. And, you know, that's how I would express myself. Like I was just fascinated by instruments, you know, very cool.
Did you ever do the street performer thing or never?
Like busking?
Yeah.
It wasn't a part of my world really. I did some of that, but it wasn't really my form of busking. Was really like playing in bars, because honestly, it's a similar thing where you have like, you know, maybe 50% of the people at a given time really don't care if you're there. So you're trying to like, you know, put yourself out there in a way that's a little weird, because it's not like playing at an original music venue where people show up to really see you. You know what I mean? In the beginning, it's like you're paying your dues, you know, you're hustling.
this is about you guys, but just why do you think your mom left being a nun? And if you don't want to go down that road, we can skip it. So
no, not at all.
Okay.
She wanted a family, and she went to South Dakota when she was 17 for 6 years to teach art on an Indian reservation, and that's pretty far from home in a lot of different ways. So I think she missed home, she missed her family, and she wanted to start her own family. So that's why she did that.
Huh. Yep. Interesting. And Marmo's an art teacher. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I was an art dealer for years. I love
it. Nice.
Yeah. Very important part of my uphooded. So that's cool.
Yeah.
1952, Vincent, Black Lightning. You destroyed the amazing, you rocked that song. So you've heard it a lot. I'm very sure you've heard this many times, but why you picked that song?
I picked that one because, first of all, I was always, since I first heard Richard Thompson, his stuff drew me in immediately. Just, the way he delivers, not only his guitar playing is obviously phenomenal, but the way he delivers the story is very authentic and only him. But this particular song is one of those songs. When I do a cover song, and I love doing covers, but I ain't touching a cover if I can't bring something different to it. And that's one of those songs. People who try to do it like he's doing it, why? You know what I mean? You're never gonna touch it like that. So that song developed over years of playing it live. It just sort of developed into this thing that I sort of, built on. And I do get a lot of feedback where people think, wow, that's you brought something new to that. There's still the diehard Richard Thompson fans, that are like, I don't know, man. When I first heard you were doing this song, got a little nervous. You got to be careful with that one. But then usually, for the most part, people are like, oh, that's different. That's pretty cool.
Did anybody tell you should cover Tom Waits? Just kidding.
Yeah.
He just released a Tom Waits cover. I was like,
really
recent. So be smart ass.
There's a host of artists, I'd say, I could list, that their body of work is just oh my God, there's so many amazing songs that are so fun to cover.
Closing Time might be one of the albums I've listened to the most in my life.
Yeah. Totally. So many great songs there. These were genius songwriters, so easy.
So, okay. So speaking of newer projects and stuff, you've been working, or you've finished now, you released this song Sorrow that you did. So what's the backstory? You were hired to write a song, or what's it was for your album first, or how did that come about?
It was a strange one. So back in, it must have been January 2019, I was asked to play at a remembrance ceremony on the west coast of Ireland, the Cliffs of Moher. And it was a scattering of ashes ceremony. I come to find out that the girl who had passed away, she was documenting her journey through cancer. And sadly, she didn't make it. But her friends wanted to finish the documentary and sort of document their journey through grief. So I was asked to head up there and play some songs at the ceremony and hang out for a few days, which was kind of weird. It's one of those ones where you kind of feel like you shouldn't be there. As somebody I didn't know, you're very much a fly on the wall. But Alison's friends and her family were so warm and just wanted to talk about her all the time and share a lot of stories. And when I went out, I played a few of her favorite songs and stuff, and it felt like I made a very instant connection with her friends, and almost I felt like I really got to know her. So after those few days, her friends and her family went back home to LA, and they got back in touch and said, we would love for you to write something for the documentary. And of course, it was one of those, like a huge honor, obviously, but also a massive responsibility. And it took a lot of time. A lot of times, I don't know about you, Sean, but I find when I'm writing, like the words and the music tend to kind of come together. If I'm usually playing something on the piano or playing guitar and I'm hemming and, you know, just
Totally.
shouting out nonsense until something happens. I don't know, just so weirdly aware that I wanted to really focus on the words of this one, and I purposefully didn't let music enter it until the last moment when I could read it down almost like a poem, and just really, really be sure about what every line was saying.
Yeah.
So once I got to that point, I had a little loop that I accidentally made. I was sitting here at the console a few years back, and you know, pushed the chair back to get in the sweet spot to listen to something, hit play, and I'd accidentally looped like a half-second thing on Pro Tools, and it was just this. I went, oh shit! But it was covered in reverb. It was being sent out to this spring unit that just had this thing to it. So yeah, it felt good. So that was the music for Sorrow was almost in the beginnings of it were almost in the back pocket. So
happy accident. That's cool.
Massive, yeah, happy accident. I remember I'd saved that little session and thought that will be something someday. And when I finished the lyrics out to Sorrow, I just kind of went digging and I found that, and the two things went together quite well.
Awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Sean, who's Desiree?
You know what's funny about that is, you know, I have these little bits that I tell in between songs live, and you know, people give you a certain degree of leeway with your jokes if you're a musician, you know, because you're not a comedian, you know what I mean? So, but you know, I feel like people entertain me a little bit by allowing these. But I would tell the story about Desiree, which is kind of inspired by a girl in my kindergarten class, right? Who I made this. We used to, back in school for Thanksgiving, we should trace our hand in a form of a turkey, you know, like to put our hand, trace the hand, and you basically make a turkey out of it. I don't know. It's a weird thing, right? Yeah. For Thanksgiving. So I made this girl who I was really obsessed with in kindergarten. I made her one of these hand turkeys, and I've signed my name on it, really colored it nice for her, put it in an envelope, and I gave it to her on the bus ride home from school.
You romantic
on Thanksgiving break. I know.
Yeah.
And she took the envelope, and I waited till she was like just about to get off the bus because I wasn't ready for like a real deep interaction. I just wanted to give it to her and have her mull over it over the Thanksgiving break. But she took it and she just ripped it in front of me.
Oh,
yeah. It was like, what the fuck? And I remembered that. And so, but the funny thing is, like, to be honest, like, I was, as I told this story over the years, I started to believe that the story was true. Like, this girl's name wasn't even Desiree. You know what I mean? But when I would tell the story, I was like, yeah, Desiree. And people say, oh, where's this Desiree? It's a funny thing. Like, as you tell stories and you embellish the stories and they become like alive in and of themselves, and sometimes you forget like how much shit you made up. You know what I mean?
Well, before you, it was the Neil Diamond Desiree song that I knew.
Yeah. That's right.
You know, it might be, I don't know, hopefully it's not an immature comment, but on that song, I had a very strong sense of like, not very strong, but I heard like a little bit of David Bowie in there.
That's interesting. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, like I don't know. There was a David Bowie-esque. It was which obviously a compliment.
Definitely. Yeah.
And I got one other line that I have to ask you about here. I'd be remiss not to mention it, but roadies don't care if you bleed. That is a Sean Rowe line.
Well, it's one of those lines where, you know, I'm sure, Gareth, that this might have happened to you, where you write a line and somebody thinks it saying something else, and then they say it back to you like, oh, I love that line, just like you're saying now.
Yeah.
but it's not actually what I wrote.
Oh.
It's the road doesn't care if you bleed.
Really?
Not roadies.
Oh God!
However,
I gotta listen to the song again.
that's pretty cool.
Oh, that is. That's funny because it's actually a good line. Then, yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes, somebody will mention like what they thought I was saying, and I'll think X actually it's a little better than what I had. I'm going to steal that.
Yeah. All right. So when I was first putting together this podcast, I was at my friend's house, and my friends are, they have kids now pretty much. And so my friend's daughter's in 5th grade, and she had her little girlfriends over. They were excited about the podcast idea. And they said, you need to ask every guest when they first felt famous. So bear in mind, this is little kids. So my question to you guys is, when did you first feel famous? If fame is not a road that you want to pursue or discuss, I don't know, or whatever, I don't know, any way you want to word it, what event in your life would you guys pick that you would say would be a very pivotal moment for each of you? Hopefully it's not the girl with the turkey and the but a really cute story, by the way. That was a good one. I can picture this little kid all excited with your little turkey drawing. Yeah.
I've aged well, I think.
Yeah, that's a good one.
For me, I guess I probably like playing a show with opening for Robert Plant.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that was amazing because no, he was just, it was just him and his band, Alison Krauss. It wasn't with Alison Krauss.
Wow.
This was a couple of years ago, and it was at in Port Chester, New York, at this theater, and the backstage area was very small and like kind of like in a basement area from what I remember, but it was very small, and I didn't expect to see him down there because of he's Robert Plant. He's not going to be hanging out. And he's going to be off somewhere in a trailer somewhere, and he was down there. He had a few other people in his band with him, and I'm telling you, it was just like a room in somebody's house. It was so tiny. And I was there. I had a little backing band at the time. I'm mostly playing solo, but I had a little backing band at the time. And I just looked over this dude, and Robert Plant, he now resembles somewhat of a lion, with his like beard, mane and stuff. He just looks like this lion. And I couldn't believe that. Like, this is the dude that's singing on like Led Zeppelin, man. That's the dude. Holy shit, And he came over and he talked to me, and he was so sweet. He was just like, "So you're Sean? Are you from Troy?" And he was telling me about my hometown, Troy, and Troy's so small, It's like to Robert Plant to mention Troy was so weird to me. It's like, "Are you from Troy?" And I was like, yeah. It's like, I had my birthday in Troy. And he was talking about his 21st birthday, which he did. He celebrated it in Troy because they played in Albany, a close city to Troy. And, I just thought, like, holy shit, I can't believe I'm having a conversation with Led Zeppelin, So, yeah, it felt great. It felt cool.
It's pretty cool. It really is. I met Jimmy Page once in a bar, and he comes over to the table, and he's going to sit with us, right? And I'm at a table with a lot of ladies. And he comes over to sit at the table, and he shakes everybody's hand but mine because I was on the far end of the table.
Yeah.
Normally, who cares? But I'm thinking, like, I want to shake Jimmy Page's hand.
Yeah.
And this lady, she pipes up, and she says, "I used to be one of your groupies in the 70s. And he's like, "Oh, okay. Well, it's very nice to meet all of you." And he left, Yeah, I'm just kind of like, what the hell, lady? We just scared away Jimmy Page.
Funny, man.
Love it.
Yeah. Sure.
Did you spend time with the Nanci Griffith at all, Gareth?
I did, yes. So Belfast and Nashville are sister cities in the arts. So there's a lot of different programs and stuff happen there. And I was playing it's called the Belfast Nashville Songwriters Festival here in Belfast.
That's cool.
It was great. Yeah, it happens every year. It's a great festival. And Nanci was over, and I got to play in the round with her. And she was so sweet and so encouraging. You know, I mean, this is probably, I'm sure, 12 or 13 years ago, and I was definitely pretty green, and probably actually green before I was going on stage, with nerves. But she was so supportive and so sweet, and I got to hang with her after the show, and she said, well, listen, if you ever get to Nashville, you know, call me up and we'll hang out, and I did, and we did that at times, and yeah, we went for burgers at Brown's Diner in Nashville, and I got to hear a lot of the old stories, and then yes, she came back to Belfast and did the same thing again a couple of years later, and we played another show together. So she's you know, what a voice, what a talent.
Oh God, I know, like, having a bad day, listen to her, it's just like an angel.
Yeah.
I reached out to her many years ago, and it was about writing a song for a film together. And they sent me this. She wouldn't, because she wrote a song for a Coppola film. I think it's the one that Tom Waits did the music to. I think I might be wrong, but they cut her song, so that's it. No more songs for movies.
Wow.
You cut my song, boom. So they sent me this big box, and it had all of her, you know, her book and her CDs and all her crap in there. And I called back. I'm like, I greatly appreciate this, but you have to understand, I already have all of this stuff. Yeah. Which I didn't actually. There was a couple live DVDs of hers that are fantastic that I didn't have, and they're actually really great. They're worth listening to. So, what about Van Morrison? He's got a little bit of a he's known to be a little bit hard to deal with amongst roadies. So
Yes. Yes, I have a lot of friends who have worked close with him, and I've heard all the stories.
a little hard.
It's kind of, yeah, it's kind of one of those ones where, like, when a bunch of musicians in Belfast meet up and have a few drinks, there's usually a moment in the night where everybody shares their favorite Van story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're mostly pretty horrific, but also very humorous at the same time, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I did play a couple of shows of Van, and he's, you know, it's unfortunately, it's not like that Robert Plant moment where very personable and
yeah.
It's not that at all. He turns up in a car 5 minutes before he goes on stage, and then he leaves the band playing on stage as he goes back into the car and drives off. It's interesting though. Right. I mean, it's kind of part of, like, I've never seen a band so on edge playing with him. It's really, really bizarre, but it's kind of like his sound. Certainly it is live. They're just following every move that he makes, and every one of those little cues that he gives with his hand. And the tension is just palpable. And then when he leaves and he gets off and drives into the car, you just see a group of musicians just go,
yeah.
And they start taking solos and playing things, and it's just, it just all just takes a big deep breath. It's amazing to watch.
Yeah, that's something, and I've definitely got that sense that that's what it would be like with him, but just from the stories that you hear, which you never know, what's true. But interesting that fame doesn't really, in and of itself, it doesn't necessarily affect artists in the same way, insofar as their ability to, like, connect with their audience on a like a human level, like, because Robert Plant, case in point, but there's a lot of artists that are beyond successful, and you'd think they would be like completely standoffish, and they're just like a regular person when you see them face to face.
I think there's an arc sometimes. That's why you get really huge, you get your private plane for the first time, not that I'm aware of this, but and then you come back to maybe who you were a few minutes ago, and I think you arc back in a lot of circles.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Like Dolores, for example, she was fun. She could be kind of tough, but when she was in a good mood, she was fun. She was a great person to hang out with.
Yeah.
So, you said something. So it's been a little bit, but I remember looking at your Facebook page, Sean, and you had said that with the speaking of fame, I guess, of I don't know, the public now, you thumbs up, and you maybe aren't even thinking why you're thumbsing up so many things. It was something along those lines. And I got to admit, it made me think, because I'm guilty of that, because you're on there and you're just clicking the thumbs up for people, but it's just to be supportive when you're not even listening to what they're doing and whatnot.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I just think, honestly, if I wasn't, if I didn't have this lifestyle of, an artist, touring artist, as like a business, as of what I do for a living, I wouldn't have a social media page.
Amen. Amen.
Totally. I think it's just, it's a very strange cultural experiment, and it doesn't seem to really connect you to somebody on a real deep level, So I think being aware of that, a lot of this is just a facade, is important. Like you play the game, but in the end, really, is it that important? And does it really, is it really changing humanity for the better? I don't think so.
Yeah. It's strange now as well, because so much of it is, I feel like I had a bit of a mind shift with the whole thing, and I kind of view it as kind of the yellow or the white pages, I should say. You're there, you're trying to push a product, and on some level, absolutely trying to connect with your fans, but and people who are just into your shit, which is amazing, and it's great to have that, in front of you or on your phone. But so much of it now is pay to play. I'm putting out music and meeting friends in the street a month later, and they're like, "Oh, hey, I didn't realize you had music out."
Yeah.
You're not paying the money to get to them, and that just feels so.
But they gave you thumbs up.
if they even see the post.
Right.
Yeah, it's a strange, it's a real strange one. I feel most of the time very jaded with the whole thing.
It's a difficult thing, because it's a necessity. You have to push yourself. So you're in a bit of a compromise, I think, because I don't know what you said. It really got me thinking, because that weekend we went out on a boat, and there was all these dolphins. They were next to the boat. It was fantastic. And all the kids are sitting there with their phones trying to catch the dolphins instead of just watching these great dolphins, and I understand it, but at the same time, I think you need to spend a few minutes thinking about not being on all of it so much.
Yeah. And taking a break from it is great. I totally recommend that. But also it sort of ties into that same thing. But I don't know about you, Gareth, but one thing I hate, like, that really digs at my soul, is when people are filming you with their iPhones at a show and like looking at the show through their phone. It's like, I hate that because I think, like, 9 times out of 10, they're not even going to look at that again.
They're never going to look. Yeah, they're never going to look again. It's going to sound shit. It's going to look shit.
Yeah, and as an artist, no artist likes the sound of, like, thinks that their iPhone video represents how they sound live. So when people post that, it's like, nah, not doing me any favors. That's just, it's what a better idea it is to just have a memory of a show than have a shitty fucking recording of it. You know what I mean? A grainy, shitty video.
The memory
audio.
Of the show creates the stories that can create content.
Yeah. The memory is many times better than the actual event. You know what I mean? The way we embellish stories and stuff. So we've lost that ability, you know what I mean, with this technology. So
speaking of songwriting, Gareth, so you've had the opportunity to have some songs sang by some really great acts and stuff. Do you have any moments where you first heard them perform a song that you had done, and you're I mean, you're obviously giddy. I know that, but is there any standouts of, like, wow, they are such a good singer, or what a way to take my song to a different level, or any of those things that you would think of?
Yeah, I think some of the more standouts. Moments like that were through the TV show Nashville, and I was always really psyched because I wanted to hear how the band, because it was always really great musicians that Tim Lauer was working with and putting together in the studio. So you're hearing amazing Nashville session heads, tackling a song that was maybe just a demo on acoustic guitar or piano vocal, and they built this whole thing around it. So that was always like I always got a real kick out of that, because they're really reimagining the song, and producing it out, blowing the walls out with it. So that was always really, really interesting. And then the TI one was completely, that was massively left of center. You can probably tell I don't listen to a lot of rap music. I don't know an awful lot about it. And I think he had heard a song that I had on an EP. I think somebody at his record company had let him hear a snippet of it or something, and he wanted to sample it. So I have to, hands in the air. That was not a co-write with TI. I wasn't sitting down, vamping out some killer rap lyrics. But he lifted that, like the main hook, the chorus of the song, and a lot of the instrumentation, and added it to one of his tracks. And I was really excited to hear that, because the song itself, it was, there's a couple of real big kind of vocal moments in it. And I thought, wow, this is going to be great. But when the thing finally came together, he completely like upsampled my record. So as opposed to this kind of gutsy, soulful voice, it sounded like a distorted chipmunk in the background.
Oh, that's funny.
And yeah. I was like, oh shit. It wasn't the moment I was really waiting for, but it was still kind of cool.
Yeah. Funny one. Do you have a moment that you would choose, or the famous question, or what would you select?
I was thinking about that. So something that sprung to mind was I was on a flight, and I got a song used in a movie called Safehaven a few years back, and I think the film did all right. I remember sitting on a flight. I was on my way to Nashville, and the guy beside me was watching Safehaven on the screen, and I was kind of sitting there, and I was kind of every now and again glancing over at the screen, and I realized that okay, that's the scene where I'm singing, and I saw him bring his phone out and started typing in "Wrap Your Arms Around Me." That was the name of the song that plays for about 2.5 minutes. And I remember thinking, wow, he's, I guess he's probably going to Google that when he goes home. I didn't say anything, but I kind of felt like, wow, that's a very surreal moment.
Yeah, that's neat.
And actually the same, Sean, the first time I came across your music was actually in the Ben Affleck film, The Accountant.
Gotcha.
I was sitting here with my wife, and we were watching it. We put it on, and that to leave something behind.
Yeah.
It came on, and it was okay. Fucking pause everything, turn the lights back on. All right, we need to find out who this is. And cool. Yeah, we went on a deep dive, man.
That's cool. I did it once. Joe Purdy. Yeah, it's a Volkswagen commercial. I'm like, who's singing this? And I started looking online. That's where online can come in helpful, I suppose. And I found this guy, Joe Purdy. He'd written this song for Volkswagen commercial. And then you start listening to albums, and you become a fan. So
yeah,
it's a great gateway. It's a great gateway.
It is, for sure.
Well, gentlemen, I really do appreciate your time. Thank you for it. If I'm ever stuck in the middle of nowhere on some like reality TV show, Sean, you're going to be the guy I'm going to drag with me to keep me alive with the stuff to eat from the forest.
I'll do my best. Yeah. I'll do my best.
It's not just a hobby for you though. It's quite a way of life. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm usually eating something wild every day, pretty much.
And will you shop at the supermarkets and whatnot?
Oh yeah. I'm not a purist or anything. Yeah. I mean, especially in the wintertime, most of my food comes from, stuff I buy. But when the season permits, that percentage will definitely change. I do it. It's a way of life. There's so many benefits to it that it's become a part of what I do.
Can I ask you, Sean, how you got into that? Was it? I'm guessing it wasn't trial and error of trying stuff. And
No, well, when I was a kid, I was really fascinated by indigenous cultures and how they lived off the land, and how they were so connected to nature. That always fascinated me. And it wasn't until I was being babysat by this couple, and the husband, I was outside and he was he was like chopping wood or something. And he was this kind of rugged carpenter kind of guy, no shirt on, hairy dude, just kind of masculine, and he was chopping wood, and he takes a break for a minute and he goes up to this dandelion and he just starts eating it. And I'm like looking, I'm like, he just picked something off the ground and he's just eating it. And then he brings it over to me. He's like, "You want one?" I was like, "Okay." And he's like, "Yeah, it's a lot of iron in it." I didn't even know what iron was. I just knew it was, I thought of Popeye, you know what I mean? When he said that, and he's like, "Yeah, this is really good for you." And I thought it tasted awful, but I thought it was really fascinating that he was eating something off the ground that he picked up, just plant. And so that became like just a fascination with me of like, wow, what if I learned how to just go into the woods and like, "Hey, can I eat this?" Yep. You know what I mean? And then you realize like it's a wormhole, you know what I mean? It's there's so much to it, but it's so fun,
Wow.
So that's how that started.
There was a documentary I watched. I didn't complete it. I watched almost all of it. It was about mushrooms and how.
Yeah. Oh, was it Fantastic Fungi?
That's the one. Yeah.
Yep.
Very important. They are to everything.
Oh yeah. Amazing.
Very interesting. It was really, really, really well done.
Oh yeah.
Very interesting.
I was surprised about how well that was done. The mushrooms are a lot more, mushroom hunting is in Europe is a lot more prevalent in certain areas of Europe than it is in the States. Although West Coast is pretty big with that, like Portland and, that Seattle, that's a big mushroom harvesting thing, but a lot of people are still freaked out about it,
Yeah, what vegetables do you not like?
What's that?
What vegetables do you not like, or do you have any allergies to
I don't have any allergies that I know. I mean, there's certain vegetables I don't like okra. Hate okra. It's slimy, and it just doesn't suit me well. But I'm big on, I like kind of strong flavors like bitters, and I like things that are like mildly astringent sometimes, I just like a lot of flavor. So there's no shortage of different unique flavors that most people have never tried before. If you're into that foraging world, there's a lot of novel things. So yeah, it's like, I mean, in Ireland, I'm sure, there's some amazing things out there too, depending on where you are and what your knowledge base is. But, it's worldwide.
Knowledge is key.
Yeah, definitely. Knowing. Yeah. And that's how you avoid getting poisoned,
Yeah.
You just got to do your research,
Mm-hmm.
Well, guys, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joel.
Yeah. If you guys ever need anything, bark at me. But otherwise, I look forward to listening to all the new music that you guys are coming out with. Definitely going to pick up your album in April. And I'll talk to you guys both soon.
Right on. Gareth, take care of yourself, man.
Take it easy. Bye-bye.
All right.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe by clicking the round button on the bottom right. To learn more about me or the guests on the show, go to joelrohde.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok. The handle's Joel Rohde. And don't forget, when you party like a rock star, don't be a dick.